right.
Hey,
Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to another TDRS. As you noticeably know, our sister Tanisha is out. She's doing the work in her fellowship program to help us improve and build our communities, definitely in Chicago, but this sister is impacting us across this nation. So shout out to Tanisha. We're in hopes that she's going to be able to pop in for a few moments. However, it's all good if she's not. We know she's doing the work. We do have our guest on with us already. However, Brother Neo, we're going to go ahead and open it up with what's happening in our communities. There are a lot of trials happening, guys. I know if you are in the state of Georgia and you are watching the Ahmaud Arbery trial and all of the things happening on social media with it, it definitely is it's heart-wrenching. And so for those who are tuned in, please make sure you like and share this out. But again, Brother Neo, we'll go ahead and open us up because I know our guests, they are ready to get into these questions and conversations. So my brother, how are you? And give us your feedback on what's happening politically in the
man.
world.
So I will tell you that I am exhausted with white supremacy. I just want to, say that right off the bat. We are working overtime for justice, and we're still not seeing it. It is blatant racism everywhere. It is on full display. It is on display with the Kyle Rittenhouse trial, right? Those white tears from this teenager. I'm pretty sure some of the jury felt that, right? And they saw their own son on the stand crying. That's who they saw. To yesterday in Brunswick, Georgia, where we have a white attorney saying we don't want any more black pastors inside the courtroom. I could not believe that actually came out of his mouth. And so, we're attacking that. We're still waiting to hear from Governor Stitt in Oklahoma concerning the recommendations that the Pardon and Parole Board, two recommendations, one for a commuted sentence and then another one for clemency. And the governor still hasn't even responded to that. So Julius Jones is 6 days away from receiving a legalized modern day lynching. So that is what's happening in Black America right now.
Yeah, man, it's a lot. I mean, the fight is like it never ends, even in Georgia, where recently I had the NAACP on Atlanta this morning, and they were talking about recent bills that are impacting Gwinnett County. As you all know, Gwinnett County is the largest district in the state of Georgia. We have had Dr. Johnson, who was the first Black woman to be elected on the board, on our podcast. The Black Wall Street Times and the Atlanta both collaborated to help get her elected with our students that were hitting the ground, getting people organized, educated, empowered, and out to vote. And now they are changing the game to where now you won't even be able to vote for the school board members in November. You have to vote for them in May during the primary time, when we already know May is the close of school. It's the close of the fiscal year. It is the end of the year for graduation. And so many families are busy with that and making sure that our students get to the finish line that, to be quite honest, it becomes even more of a struggle to get out and vote. And so to think that parents are now having to decide if they're going to have a voice in their school board election because it's being centered right in the heart of testing coming down, sports programs ending, graduation coming up, and also the end of school. And so it's the strategy, the tactic of disenfranchising our people never changes. And so we're going to go to the T. You guys always know we bring some tea to the people to help educate and spread the word. And then these queens, we have queens of the movement, y'all. I know they are patiently waiting to get into the conversation around how Black people, Black and brown people, are further disenfranchised in America through efforts of helping. And our Black-led organizations that are funded by white dollars really helpful, or are they hazardous to our fight for Black liberation? And so we're going to go to the T, and then we'll be back into some other upcoming things that are happening in our communities. All right, y'all. I love these graphics. They are so powerful. Listen, we're going to bring it right back to Atlanta. Talking about equity. And I know that one of our guests who has recently ran for school board, Queen Sheba in District 2, which has the gravest inequities in the city of Atlanta, will definitely connect to this video that just was actually on the news. And it was speaking to the inequities of what, again, the school board is pushing forward under the vision of the superintendent that will actually go against their vision of equity. So let's check out this video.
It would be just for 4th and 5th graders, and they're wanting to do this despite a warning that it would hurt some students who are struggling academically. Channel 2 investigative reporter Richard Belcher is on this live outside the old Inman Middle School. So Richard, this move appears to go against APS's commitment to equity for all students.
APS is openly proud of its commitment to equity and social justice. The district even has an office dedicated to those two goals. But an internal report discovered by some inquisitive parents reveals that APS's plans for this 4th and 5th grade academy here carries some risks for students already at risk.
Our commitment to equity is not an add-on. It's not an afterthought. It is foundational.
School Board Chair Jason Estevez on the vital importance of equity at APS. The superintendent says the goal of that equity is to improve outcomes for historically disadvantaged students.
We continue to fail future generations by failing to close the educational achievement gap.
But APS is on the verge of creating a 4th and 5th grade academy in the old Inman Middle School that its own equity office says would harm students who are already struggling. The new academy would take transfers from Hope Hill Elementary on Boulevard. Nearly 90% of them are Black. 3 out of 4 live below the poverty line. Only about 1 out of 5 is considered English language proficient. About 2 out of 5 proficient in math. This report by the APS Equity and Justice Office recommends against the 4th and 5th grade academy and concludes the move would have the largest disparate impact on low socioeconomic status students and students with the greatest needs. In other words, many of the students at Hope Hill.
I was shocked because I thought this was being done for the vulnerable kids, not in spite of them.
Brant Furco's daughter goes to Morningside, another of the schools whose 4th and 5th graders would go to the new academy. Furco and other parents discovered the equity report that says the new school would hurt students who are already lagging. And just today, they got records which reveal the equity office relied on research that shows each transition for students tends to result in a drop in achievement.
And we realized that APS had hidden the fact that this would actually be a disaster for vulnerable kids.
Has this document been released to the public or at a board meeting or posted on a website?
No, it's never been released.
APS sent a statement saying it considered many factors in planning for the school. Those include academics, community input, the ability to walk to the school, and of course, equity. And it determined that academics would be what the district calls the primary driver. The district says the new academy will offer what it calls an opportunity to create an innovative, specialized program for 4th and 5th graders. The Atlanta School Board still has to approve this plan. Live along Virginia,
Wow.
Richard Belcher, Channel 2 Action News.
I know that was a long video, but so powerful.
I mean, I
because-
have 1,000 and
I love how they have to
we
approve
don't
after
get-
it's
we're gonna
already
get
done.
right into that, guys. Like, I want to hear from each and every one of you.
Can I start?
I send a message to you all saying that
Please.
this was strategically put out after the election, because if you were paying attention to the Atlanta election from my campaign and Queen Sheba's campaign, this was an issue that we definitely, as well as Royce Mann, who was a student that was running for school board, and Michaela, who was a teacher in Atlanta public schools on the high school level. These are things that all of us brought up. And it connects to this conversation today because there were so many outside entities, so many organizations that, again, with white funded dollars, were driving a narrative to say, hey, let's get these incumbents back in office because they're going to really bring equity to our schools. And then to have this report come out the week after the election to say, wow, grave
I could
inequities
feel
are going
my
to come
blood boiling
forward
as it
from
was.
the actual equity department that the superintendent put in place, yet the board and the superintendent would support this creation of this school. So, Brother Neo, Queen Sheba, Anashay, let's spend a few minutes on this before we get into the conversation.
Okay, so let me just get this straight, because I know you just ran. I want to let my sisters go ahead and go first. I have my opinion. I just want to see if we're aligned before I start running my mouth up on here so I don't get chewed out.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, but y'all go ahead first. I'm about to mute my mic. Go right on.
Go ahead, Queen and Anashay. Let's see what you guys think.
It's shocking and appalling that it's being released the week after the election. You already mentioned earlier, I'm not sure if we were on the air or while we were talking backstage, about how District 2 has the least amount of equity and funding. And this is on Boulevard? And I mean, there are so many things that just made my blood boil. And they have to approve it after it's already done. So how does that work? How does that math? That isn't math. So you're telling me that the school is already done. You're already transporting children there. You're already putting them at risk, but it hasn't been approved. How does that work?
Okay.
It's just sickening what I've learned about the politics in APS since I've been running. I really thought that APS, running for the school board, was for the children. I really thought that. In May, when I decided to run for Atlanta Public School Board of Education, I was like, oh, I'm for the children. I've always been for the children. I've always been about youth learning and young adult learning. None of this has been about the betterment of the children. It's almost like when parents get divorced and they're fighting over who wants a child, but it's only for their benefit and they're not thinking about the child. Like, when does that come into play? When does that happen? When does somebody say on the school board, and when does the chair, Mr. Estevez, since he won, okay, fine. So when does Mr. Estevez say, oh, no, this has got to be for the children? And I'm very surprised at Lisa.
He demands it. He demands it when we demand it, right? So at the end of the day, I think about these distractions, right? And these indicators versus impact. You understand what I'm saying? And so when I look at that, one thing you miss that is nuanced is that it starts off with a group of inquisitive parents, right? Again, at the end of the day,
and who are they?
Exactly. But see, sis, here's the thing. I am that inquisitive parent. It's called critical interrogation of systems. My mama raised me to question anything that don't make no damn sense. So that's number one, is the power that they knew they had to question, right? The power to critically or be inquisitive parents, right? I think that gets to the bigger headline of focusing on what is it that we want that is powerful, right? Because I am a certified Georgia educator, right? I've been for years. My son is 15 at a Black Title I school. And I will only put my kids in Black Title I schools because I cannot undo the harm of predominantly white schools, okay? But at the end of the day, these parents knew their power. And so my real question is, what does it look like when we actually know our power and lead with it? There is a per pupil spending connected to my child. I wish you might do some foolishness like that in my community of DeKalb County, County Road, bus number 15, Decatur, where it's greater, right? I wish we. Right. So again, we have to first look at what they did, which was critically interrogate. And the question is, where are our spaces where we are convening, getting clear on something powerful? Like, how does this get my child to being a business owner by 12th grade?
And how did they sneak this in behind our backs?
Well, here are some answers, right? So I have talked with the students, parents, and teachers in the Midtown cluster. And one of the things that they would definitely say is they were done a disservice. And this is why this connects to this conversation that we're having today by organizations that are not invested in our children, in our communities. And people have to really know the roles that we all play. The school board has a specific role that it plays. We, as those who know, but those who are advocates, those who are educators who know how the system works, we play a specific role. Teachers play a role because there are teachers that had no clue. Teachers were a part of this group that helped to expose this because they were like, wait a minute. I said this on a forum that Queen Sheba and I sat on. This is one of the most ridiculous ideas. If you are a certified educator, if you have been in education, we all know that intermediate education begins at 3rd grade. So if APS wants to improve equity and data and how their system is operating, why would we take out the most critical year of starting intermediate education from an academy that will connect it to the other grades? That's the biggest concern of the elementary school teachers at Hope Hill, is that, wow, we're not even going to have a foot up because you're going to take our third graders away from a curriculum dynamic and change that they're not even going to have a connection to other grade levels because we won't even be in the same building. How does that transfer over to
and then that
development?
report just said that as many times as you transfer a student between schools, then their chances of an equitable education drop. And we already talked about on the other forums, their stress level, anxiety, COVID, taking care of their parents. We talked about all of those other things. So now I'm going to school from kindergarten to third grade in one building. Now you're saying that fifth and sixth, I'm going to fourth grade. So now fifth and sixth, I'm going to another building. Now I'm leaving there and going seventh, eighth, ninth, 10th, 11th, 12th into another building. Now you want me to leave and go to higher learning, whichever one you decide to do in another building. There's no stability. There's no consistency.
Stability.
We talked about, and we talked about how important consistency is for any person that is developing.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's a lot to this.
I gotta say something though, y'all. Like, okay, I could play devil's advocate. I grew up where it was K through 8th, right? To y'all point, where we could see other kids, we could see what they did good, but also what they didn't do, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then we went K-7th at Cedar Grove in DeKalb. Then we went to 8th through 12th. I never went to middle school, right?
Yeah.
I think the bigger thing is, but let's get inquisitive. What is it that we do want? Because we spend so much time with these distractions, right? Is the bigger goal, right, that they need some mentorship? Like when I grew up, you know, we had sororities and fraternities, right? Though our mentors, we didn't put that much stock in the school system, right? We never put that much stock in those school systems. They ain't never served us, and it was never created for us. So my question then is, okay, 4th, 5th grade, all of this and that, right? But where's the supports outside of the system, right? And what is it that we truly want that is powerful kids? But kids are resilient. If you really want to know what I think, I would say get inquisitive. You show me the dollars, I'll show you why they picked 4th, 5th. I'll show you exactly why anybody did anything. Follow
the money. But the money isn't there. That's the thing. And here let's uncover the whole thing. Here's the reality. The children at Hope Hill are so intricate to this, even though they're going to be failed and disenfranchised the most, is because the dollars come with them. So let's be very clear. The board knew about this. That Title I funding, all of the title dollars from Title I to Title 20 are going to go with them to this new school. And then what will happen is the impact from the outer skirts of redistricting, and now the communities are changing. It is going to push them out. So guess what? It ain't gonna push the money out. It's not gonna push the resources out. The money and the resources will stay there. And that is what the parent was saying on the clip, is that you mean to tell me that we did all this in working in the name of equity with the organizations, and we haven't gotten to that part yet, but we are going to get to the role that they play. But we work with these organizations that have sent us mailers and have come to our communities and say, listen, we want to help you reduce the numbers of students in your schools, and we're for equity and we're for the children, and we don't want to see them disenfranchised, but they aren't telling you about the dollars and cents of the matter. And that is at the heart of the day, baby. We know this game. We know that it is dollars and cents. People gonna sit up here and say, oh, I love the children. We gonna clap for them. We gonna applaud them. We gonna see the stories about, oh, the graduation rates are going up, but the literacy rates are still low. So the children can't really articulate how to succeed in higher education. Prove me wrong, Queen Sheba, because she's at Clark Atlanta University working in the English department and can tell you that the children can't put sentences together for research papers together. And theories.
They don't know what adjectives and adverbs are, nouns. They don't know where commas are supposed to go. It is really a hit and miss situation. And what I was thinking while you were talking about the dollars and cents and following the dollars that come with each pupil is, remember that Atlanta is still missing all those after school programs. So instead of making a whole new academy, we could have made a whole bunch of after school programs to keep the children engaged.
Right.
Let us own our children. We need community-based organizations. If they don't give it to us, we take it, because there is a cost associated with my child. I'm not a stakeholder, I'm a shareholder. Because my shareholder, right? Stakeholder was in that whack-ass system. So we need another system outside of the system. We need to learn from our ancestors You know, if you want to disrupt the system, build a new one that's better.
The municipal building needs to come down. That's on Memorial Drive. It needs to be an after-school program center, and keep the children engaged and take those dollars so that the children have something to do after school. What happened to after-school art, math, science, learning? What happened to track and field? What happened to art? What happened to visual art?
Let me say this. David Jernigan used to be a high-ranking APS official who now leads the Boys and Girls Clubs in Atlanta. I'm not trying to be funny, but Atlanta, why don't we have a stronger partnership with them? If you're saying that the dollars are not there, then let me give you grandma's method. Why aren't we making partnerships with the very entities of people that, again, have already worked in the school system, that already have the access to dollars and
that are not black-led?
The money is there.
They are not black-led, right?
So
Neil says the money is there.
Going?
Right.
Yeah, I interviewed Secretary Miguel Cardona like 2 weeks ago, right? And he said that the money is definitely there. Now, as far as the state funneling the damn money down, I don't know if that's happening in Georgia, you know, or I don't know if the money is just sitting there. I really don't know what they're doing.
It's a combination of both. Let's also remember that state funds, federal dollars, and then the general populated dollars are different. And I go back to this analogy of Title I, specifically with family engagement. Most of our Metro Atlanta school districts, they're not invested in family engagement. Let me tell you why. Because the dollars are all coming from the federal government and Title I. Title I restricts a lot of things. And so this will take us into the area around wraparound services. A lot of the incumbents, a lot of the candidates were saying that, oh, we need to improve wraparound services. The school board members acknowledge that this is something that they did not do well. But why are we not doing it well when we have a consistent investment only in family engagement from Title I through Title V federal dollars or federal grants, and these things restrict us from actually doing the work of after school programming, of social emotional work, of the mental health support that families are saying that they need, for early learning and literacy, for financial literacy.
We don't have inquisitive parents like they do, and we need more inquisitive parents and inquisitive leaders and people.
The generation is definitely different.
I'm gonna
say, like, so a few weeks ago I was at the Atlanta the school board meeting, right? And we had a whole bunch of white parents. We had like an Indian parent step up and speak at the podium. And they were all talking about how they didn't want this transition to take place with the 4th and 5th grade academy. They were all against it. And even these white moneyed belt parents were ignored. So like, they're not even listening to the parents that have the money.
Yeah,
so I don't,
it's an engagement problem.
This is a Democratic strategy for, like, you know, keeping Black voters, or it's definitely like it's the opposite of that.
Yeah.
You know what's interesting? Anna Shea was saying we need to listen to our ancestors and do what our grandmother did. So what happens if we pull all our children out?
Boop.
Yeah, but let's highlight this.
Right, come on, Nehemiah knows, right, that while we talk about the murder, right, of Tulsa and Greenwood, what we miss is the strategy that led up to the money power we had,
right,
and the per capita spending. So roll with me if you would. I'm not giving nobody my power. Let me be clear about that. Number one, inquisitive, right, but 2, strategize. We need more well-equipped disruptors.
That's it.
Like Queen Sheba, right? We need to mass produce the protesters, so we have a strategy and a unified collective vision. I'm not giving anybody anything. I am powerful. We've been powerful. Check out the 1990s of DeKalb County when we were the 2nd most prosperous Black community in the country. Stop crying me a damn river. Get in the community and tell these white. There are some white co-conspirators out there. I know because I watch. And they do what I say do. Do what I say do, and they do it. Shout out to them. Lisa, y'all know who y'all are. Shout out to my co-conspirators who watching, because they work behind the scenes and do what I say. They bring their resources, they bring their knowledge power, they speak white people, and they give me all those things and hop in the damn trunk in the back seat. I'm the driver. You ain't driving nothing in these parts.
Shout out to them in the
sorry, but I got
backstage.
stuck
And
at
one of the challenges is
speak white people. I just have. Can we just laugh at that for 1 second?
No, but
yes,
everybody plays a role, and I'm gonna pass the mic to Queen Sheba. But shout out to our backstage.
Yeah.
Please make sure you like and share this out.
I love
to
these
as many
comments that are
people
coming
as
up.
possible, and the comments that they are sharing. Numbers are not reflecting that there are parents that are disrupted. They are not. Look at these numbers in Atlanta public schools and even the charter schools. Parents are like, listen, you all are not getting this right across the spectrum. I'm not sending my child back. So many homeschool programs.
Yes.
I can tell you guys that it is slowly but surely happening. I want to go ahead and get us into our conversation and lead us to this first question that we were just on it a little bit. But can white funded organizations that have black faces, you know, who are the CEOs or who are the spokespersons that are leading this, can these organizations fully support Black liberation? And we heard that we do have some white co-conspirators that are really in this work, helping us to drive change. However, we have seen, especially recently in Atlanta, with so many organizations that are being funded by white philanthropists who are not in the city of Atlanta, that are pushing for a certain agenda. They're causing us to ask this first question: can we really have Black liberation with organizations that are Black led but white funded?
We can have Black liberation with white funding as long as they don't have a secret agenda, as long as when we receive the funding that they are in alignment with our Black liberation, with our Black vision, with supporting the Black community. And it needs to be in writing. So when we receive $50 million, $20 million, et cetera, it needs to say you are able to spend this money how you see fit to further the Black liberation movement. Period. And it does not need to restrict us, and it does not need to mirror their agenda or their company's agenda at all.
That's good.
I love that. I love it.
I ditto everything she said.
Yeah, I mean, they got to get out the way, right? At the same time, Black led doesn't always mean pro-Black, right? So again, there's also Black people with white-centric thoughts and white-centric ideologies, right? We'll deal with that offline, though. We'll be, because I don't want to shame Black people publicly, right? But we got work to do. You know, we got work. We know that.
None of them need to be shamed publicly.
Well, no, but shame
their ass right on out of office, like Tim Scott's crazy self.
I mean, my point is,
I was told once you see a sociopath, you got to expose them. Otherwise, people are going to fall victim to the same.
Oh, but you better be strategic. You better be strategic, because I don't need to add any more to deficit narratives that society has already imposed.
Absolutely.
I'm gonna get you behind the scenes, though. I got you. I'm County Road, bus number 15. I got you. We'll talk later.
I mean, it's such an important conversation.
You have to be strategic, and you need a proven track record, right? Because, you know, our people, how do you ask our leaders to have a vision greater than what they've been shown, right? How do you ask parents to have a vision greater than only what you know? So we need a space to dream big and stop using indicators as impact.
Dream and develop big with people like you. I think that your organization would be great if you had workshops all around the counties that said, hey, this is how you disrupt strategically. I think that's beautiful.
Yeah,
I think that you
and it has to be collective, right? It has to benefit the collective, because like the individualism, that is not how we roll.
Come on.
Correctly, right? So when I fight for something, I'm fighting for all of my children to be millionaires in this district, right? I'm fighting for these kids to clearly graduate, to be able to make $50K or more with or without a degree. What percentages are kids graduating with an LLC, a viable one?
Oh, that's so interesting that you brought that up. We were just talking about that in my senior and junior class yesterday. I was just telling them, well, I teach them how to publish their own book, but within publishing their own book, I also teach them how to create their own LLC.
There you go.
And I'm like, an LLC in Georgia is $100.
Then we all need to rally around this
a mandatory class too.
Yes, it should be. Especially now when technology drives your income.
Yes.
Yeah, most definitely. And we're in the process with the Atlanta Student Coalition of doing that. So the students have ownership in this, because I created a platform for them to be able to do what they need to do as students, because as a teacher, I have my own lived experience, but I also recognize that students They are our top consumer. They have their own lived experiences, and we're not valuing their voices. I want to go to this question, though, of the conversation, because a lot of people don't even understand what it means to have an organization that may be funded by others, but then have leadership for a particular group, for a particular advocacy issue or effort. What does it mean for an organization to truly be Black-led?
I do like what we were talking about earlier. When did you say, Anna Shay, that you said just because it's Black-led doesn't mean that it's pro-Black? Who said that?
Yeah,
Anna Shay or Nehemiah?
Oh, yeah. So that question is tricky, right?
Yeah.
So that question is tricky, right? So, you know, Black-led does not mean pro-Black, right? So for me, I tell everybody, don't, you know, anti-racism, like that's a distraction. Be pro-Black, be pro-Latinx, be pro-LGBTQ. Right. So what does it look like when you are for Black people? And I'm very
we need those inquisitive people again.
Right. I'm a bliggity Black-led organization, right? What that looks like is that people who are like my benefactors look like me, and I get direct dollars to them, right? I pay them for their expertise. That's number one. You pay an accountant for a lived experience. You pay a doctor for their lived experience. You will never be Black, so pay us for ours, right? That's number one. We have to get clear and put a dollar value to our expertise, like any lawyer, right? Any accountant. That's number one. But they not gonna, ain't nobody giving you nothing. And we say they and white people know it's white thought. Right? It's white thought. It's being centered in white ideology. And Black and white, everybody suffers from that. That's the disruption, is your thinking and your doing. That is what it looks like when you are Black-led. You lead with the power of Black people, not inferiority.
Wow. I don't think it's beyond us either to ask the Black organizations to see their vision plan, to see what their financial plan is, to see all of that. I think it's okay to say, that's hey, good. We have this grant that we're going to get from this white, Black, yellow, green, Puerto Rican, Haitian company. And we want to see what your vision is for Black leadership, for Black development, for Black child development, for Black youth development. And if it is not in line with being a pro-Black led organization, then one, we're not going to skip you. We're going to take you to Anna Shay's organization and teach you how to be a disruptor. Then you're going to come to Queen Sheba's organization and teach you how to build your organization and your foundation and your trust. And then we're going to get you with Jason and Nehemiah to show you how you educate in the Black word, in the Black narrative, so that we can close this generational gap and make sure that this is being passed on generation to generation. And that is how we fight against systemic racism. That is how we fight against gentrification, making sure that everybody up beyond us has money going forward, if we're related to them or not.
That's sustainability. And even on this call, in this quadrant, right, we have the education system, right? We have the business money revenue system, politics, right? And then communication and ways to disrupt your narrative and create your own. The point is this, right? At Disruptive Partners, we train leaders from the hood up, not the top down. That's number one. Number two, when we do our disruptors convening in 2023, the funders and philanthropists will have to pitch their ideas and suggestions. Pick your whack ass vision of graduation excellence to my people and let us approve it.
Oh, she giving me life today.
So we're gonna say no.
Your whack ass vision.
Vision.
Because the vision is usually whack ass because they ain't on the ground.
They're not on the ground, and it's not
on the ground. That's good.
Yeah,
that was a good point. A lot of the organizations that are funding these equity campaigns are not on the ground, and they strategically choose people. I'm still stuck on one of the comments that I saw from someone from YouTube that said that the U.S. and its Black leaders support the genocide, the wholesale murder of Black children. But let me say this, that again, when we think about the race riot that happened in Atlanta, and just like Greenwood, when Black people came in political power and economic power, we had our own schools. We were doing our own things in our own communities, minding our own business. It was the adversary that came in and said, oh, we're going to burn this down. And in order for the burning to stop from the account of Black working class, poor, educated families, it was the Black elite. It was the clergy. It was the educators. Yeah. It was those who lived it was those who had money those who, when I say those who were educated and educators, those in higher education, those who had their own dentist, of those business owners, the middle class blacks and the wealthy blacks in Atlanta sold the working class blacks out. And this is not shaming black people. This is also a part of our history, because they said that if we don't do this, they're going to kill us all. And so even in this narrative of equity, there has to be a sacrifice of the least of them in order for some of us to make it. And we have to also acknowledge that
do that to themselves too. They do that to their
colonial matrix. It's the colonial matrix. We all in it. It's the matrix.
Yes. Here's the book right here, The Atlanta Riot. I teach my students from this book is accounts from Atlanta families who lived through the blueprint for Black Power. It's too far for me to reach, because Tanisha always jokes with me about being able to read stuff. But
we have to order that.
This is so
get it so right here at the Black Wall Street Times. That's good.
It is so important that we uplift education, and when leadership is not talking about education and reaching the masses, then that's how we know that we had a question that came from those that support us, that they wanted to know, do you all think there's a hidden agenda in white philanthropists funding organizations designed to do the work of equity, specifically in our schools and our communities? I'm going to go last, but I definitely want to know you all's thoughts just from some of the comments that we're seeing and from this.
I love these comments.
Before, do you all think there's a hidden agenda?
Michelle Johnson, you're on it.
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to speak to that. Shoot.
Go ahead. Do you think there's a hidden agenda in white philanthropists funding organizations designed to be intended to impact equity in schools, communities, and business?
They're trying to absolve their white guilt with funding. That's the first thing. They're trying to say, oh, let me erase everything that me and my family has done for generations by giving millions of dollars to this Black community. I saw a comedian once after the hurricane in Haiti, and it was a few years ago. And the comedian was like, I wrote my check. Can we move on now? And he was a white comedian. And the whole room was just like,
damn.
Wow. And because that's exactly what they think. That's exactly what white people think. Oh, I wrote my check, so let's move on past this. Let me be absolved of any guilt, of anything I've ever done wrong, if I could just donate to this Black community, this Black organization. Absolutely not. It doesn't make up for anything that has harmed us.
Yeah.
The cultural shift has to be taken out. Like, the cultural shift has to happen, because we're not working on that at all. Like, we can keep injecting all of this money in, but if the cultural issue isn't taken care of, then we're just going to be on that hamster wheel of repeated systemic racism.
I mean, my question to our community, right? Because I am that inquisitive person, right? Is do we think they were ever qualified to impact equity? That's like me asking a chef to do my hair. So I don't give anybody the benefit of anything I doubt. And my children know we don't wake up thinking about white folks and white centeredness. We wake up thinking about our power. And the question is, what do we want collectively? What is our strategy, right? And how do we move forward? It's about power and a mindset of powerlessness, and shifting that to a mindset of knowledge, power, social capital, political capital. It's across the gamut. We are powerful. Our ancestors showed us that we were powerful, and they showed us what happens when you don't recognize your power. So what are we going to do? Where is our strategic vision? What are we demanding and holding people accountable for, and pushing on every level of the system?
Wow.
Pressure bursts pipes. My children know we wake up joyful, peaceful, and powerful, baby. We twirl. And we don't waste time asking.
You better twirl.
Asking what they think. We waste time asking what we want. Yeah. We tell you what we want.
That's good. And we should be empowered to do this. I am so appreciative of all of the comments, those who are viewing. Please like and share this out. One of the things that we don't do enough of is have conversations like this. We all have our own experiences, our own perceptions, and our thoughts. And this is what I teach my students. We have to value this. Every Black person doesn't think the same. We don't all have the same experiences. I don't know what it means to be a fatherless child. My daddy raised me. Now, my father was not raised by his dad, so he understood the value more. And he said, nope, I'm changing this generational curse. This will not happen again under my watch, and it will not happen in our family. And so everybody's experience is different. When I think about Queen Sheba, Kirsten Dunn was on Atlanta today as well, and their experiences are similar. We have so many families in Atlanta and throughout this nation that experience things where they have lost a parent. They've been separated from their families at birth at a young age, and that is real. And we have to be willing to accept that these are realities, and we need these different voices at the table to help build collectively. We have to, one of the things I will never forget in talking to Dr. Dove, who was a longtime educator here in the city of Atlanta from the AU Center, Washington High School, historic high school here in Atlanta. And she actually gave me this book. I'm trying not to, you know, when you just think about your ancestors, it'd be like, yeah, because she gave me this book years ago, y'all. And I would not have even thought that her notes are still in this book from her handwriting, that I would be using this. But she mentioned to me that what went wrong in the movement is that we were willing to stick together instead of separating and say, you know what, if we just sacrifice the thugs, they ain't gonna want to do right anyway. Just sacrifice them, throw them away. Them girls that they work in the night, they not important. We don't need them. Let's be willing to throw them away. We can't throw anybody away. We need everyone. And that was the lesson that I learned from her, having ancestors that were descendants of slaves and people that went through the ages of activism. She was able to say, baby, I want you. I see the passion that you have in teaching people, and I want you to be able to uplift in this next generation. This is what went wrong, so that you all can see that there was so much that did go right, but you got to find those loopholes of what went wrong to really fix the issue.
And 1 second, like you said, a
preaching, Jason.
Word.
I got to say something, Jason.
That was like so damn profound.
You got to honor the great minds don't think alike; they disrupt together, right?
Yes.
So you need divergent perspectives, because that is where the innovation resides, right? We are so quick to be so heavenly bound. We ain't no earthly good. Roll with me if you know what I'm saying.
I know what you're saying.
We honor the diversity. We don't have to agree to it, right?
Yeah.
And that is what the table is all about. I don't need no invitation to your whack table when I can build my own, right? Yeah. So what I'm saying to you is you are 110% right. How do we welcome a different perspective without adding a value to it?
Yes.
Right? How do we welcome and take the parts that make sense and the parts that don't, ignore the hell out? I'm ADHD like a mug. If it don't relate to power, I'll be somewhere rapping. I'm a lyricist. See, I'm a lyricist. I have 2 albums with my students, but I'm also from Bankhead to Buckhead. Come on, sis.
We gotta get together and make an album.
Come on, I got bars for days. From Bankhead to Buckhead, you can get it, right? And so that's what I'm saying is, how do we welcome our alternative kid students? If you want to fix our K-12 system, talk to them.
Yes.
I know, because I work.
That was the first thing I did when I decided to run for office, was to sit down and talk to the children and say, hey, what is going on? What needs to be fixed? What do you love? What do you hate?
And pay them for their knowledge.
You're talking about what we're doing, though.
Yes.
You're talking about what we're doing. And just to go to Queen Sheba's point, that was so powerful. I had an opportunity to be there with her and the students, and I stopped what I was doing because I said, wait a minute. Somebody trying to come on this campaign trail and do something different. Somebody actually sitting down and listening to the students, like, and not just the students that were water boys, or the students that are A students, or that are all these programs, like the students that are in the alternative programs, the students that are on medications, like my students, and they can't get up early in the morning, but they are penalized for not being able to get to school, but they're on medication that won't allow them to get up early. But we're not thinking about these students. We're not thinking about the students.
That social emotional
learning. We're not thinking about the students raised in foster care or by grandparents or by their older siblings because they mom and daddy died in the pandemic, and we haven't even taken a step back to say, wow, we forget that the people who died first were those on the front lines, making sure that we can still eat, that the grocery stores were still open, that McDonald's was still giving you those hot fries that you were ordering coming into your house.
And
those
if you
were
only
parents.
had $1, that's
those
what you
were
were
parents.
eating. You went to what was going to make you full for the rest of the night so that you could go to sleep or halfway study or get your homework done. And if you were in my area, then you're probably in one of those families that don't have enough funding to help you and the 4 generations that live in your house.
That's the equity that we need right there.
That is the equity that we need.
Right.
So while they're over there building a whole new academy, they could have came and spent that money on the Southwest West Side.
Come on. But again, we my question is, how are we building the next pipeline of dope, unapologetic leaders?
Well, one of the ways is I have an organization called College of Dope Writers. You can find us on Instagram, and my website is collegeofdopeasswriters.com, spelled out. And every Tuesday we have a free and sliding scale organization where you come learn how to read, write, publish your book, and do analytical thinking, and how to build your business. How many people know what a SAM's number is, a DUNS number, what you do with your EIN, your LLC, all of those things. All of that. So come to the West Side, Southwest Side. We are all building Black generations so that you can pass on your wealth to the next person. It's just so frustrating. It's so there. And some of the resources are easy, but just like what's his name said, Barrington, just like he said, who was running for city council, these grants that are written in Atlanta down at City Hall are not written for the people of our skin color, which is ridiculous, because we need brick and mortar too to be able to have these programs. While you over there building another school, you could have built Anna Shea a building. You could have built me a building. You could have built Ed Atlanta a podcast.
I renovated
building.
some of these spaces.
You could have built Atlanta a school.
And that's why I don't give any thought. I don't have to speak white people because my co-conspirators speak white people. Amen. And I just tell I don't wake up, I don't do none of that. I'm like, y'all write what y'all people need to hear in this grant and do what I say. Right? If you want to be on the right side, WRIGHT, or the white side, which side you want to be on, because you don't want to be against this side. So we have to be clear on our collective demands. And it has to be high leverage, right? It has to be what's going to push the system. Is everything we do, every piece of curriculum, putting us on the path to mass producing job creators, not just job seekers.
Thank you.
One of the things that was really disappointing to me about, although I was a contributor to the runoff for this election, what was very disappointing to me was that myself or Jason or Michaela or Royce Mann were not elected to the school board, and all of us have our foot into the education system. And it's really interesting to me because I want to know, Anna Shea, how many of these parents are really disruptors, or if they're just following along the cow that has the milk in it. And they didn't, to me, that was what was most disappointing, is because not only am I biracial, adopted, have been homeless, and part of the LGBTQIA community, it's like, what else do you want? Jason has been an educator. Royce is in the education system, and Michaela teaches in high school. It's like, but you wanted the same exact people. So now we got to find a way to support the incumbents that actually have some real emotional investment into the school board, and to the people who are in the runoff, who are the underdogs. It's like the parents hear me. Parents hear me. You have to be. I love that Anna Shea's company is Disrupt. I want one of the hats. I want to learn how to join your organization. So it is not just enough to be a part of the revolutionary movement to change your community. You have to be a disruptor. You have to ask the questions. You have to show up at your children's school. You have to know who your children's teachers are, what their curriculum says, and if it is not in alignment with making your child the most successful possible, equitably across the city, just like it is in North Atlanta and the East Side Atlanta, then you have to make some noise so that the money comes trickling down to the West Side and Southwest Side. Yeah, so we have to. So I use my white dollars, my philanthropic white dollars, right? I have a framework for disruptive leaders and disruptive allies, right? So I have codified indicators, which you all fit 100% of them, right? Of what it takes to be a disruptive leader. Now, my organization is not for people who are not ready to perform at that level, and it's okay. In the spirit of Ella Fundy Baker, Baba Amos Wilson, right? We need just a handful of people to get angry and strategic. So I don't need a whole bunch of people
I need people who are actually ready to walk the walk. And then my disruptive allies, you know, shout out to them that's listening. They work behind the scenes to coach us on the things or to strategize. Our communities doesn't need coaching. We need strategists.
Yeah.
So that's what we do, you know, and so we identify disruptive leaders.
That's good.
Them with the tools to be successful, and we twirl up in there with a strategy so bold and courageous, you have no option but to comply, or else you don't want this. We then go to Nehemiah and say, how do we get some publicity? We go
there
to
you go. Come on.
We go to Jason and say, what's the policy? We don't have to know everything, but we need a table that has
you got to make your own table and have
That's
the right people
That's
at the
it.
table. I want to ask you guys this question because one of the things that I learned this, and I learned it the hard way. I felt that there were so many allies. Like, are we gonna really make change because there's so many allies, and they're really not. And I want to know what, as disruptors, those who know the system, those who know that we have organizations that are, I don't even want to say they are wolves in sheep clothing, because they do have some assets to the work that they are intentioned to do, even though it is not truly impacting Black and brown people the way that it should. What can we do to hold them accountable, and also to make, when I say hold them accountable, two things: make sure that they not just have the representation of someone who is going to be pro-Black or for people that are being disenfranchised, but also making sure that they're using the dollars to invest in things that are going to take away the inequities, the barriers that keep our children and our families from getting the access to things that will help them bring them out of generational poverty. So what can we do to hold, because I don't want to call the organizations out, but we know the organizations, you know, when you see somebody that doesn't look like you show up and they're talking about, oh, I want to engage parents in equity. And I'm like, well, do you understand equity? Do you understand generational poverty? Do you understand the literacy rates here? Do you know what the barriers are? Because if you don't know those things, that goes to show me that you haven't even talked to the constituents that you're saying you represent. So I'm gonna pass the mic to you guys to see what can we do to build that accountability of organizations that have already penetrated themselves in our communities, but they're not doing the disruptive work to make the changes we need.
Oh, yeah. It's one word, agreements, right? So you unpack, you extract, you align, and you disrupt. Number one, I'm going to unpack and ask the right questions. Like, number one, who is the Black leader in this work? Number two, are you willing to have an agreement between us, right? So that we can hold you accountable to your metrics, right? Number three, how are your moves making us closing the generational poverty gap? Concretely. Again, you have to be firm and clear on a vision that is powerful. And does it lead to economic power, social power, the things that you need to live a successful life? Is what happens in Buckhead. This ain't nothing revolutionary. It's what rich, powerful people been doing, right? Making sure that they are economically powerful. So you have agreements, you hold people accountable, but you write what you want. And if you don't know how to do it, you go to your brothers and sisters in the community and let them help you get clear.
Right.
So again, you have to be clear, concrete, and concise on the most powerful thing that you are demanding and what success looks like along the way. Moving these kids to 4th, 5th grade, that's an indicator that you ain't on the right track to making us powerful.
Got you. I love this, y'all. We are at the end of our time. So many great comments, so much dialogue here. Please like and share this out again to people so we can help spread the knowledge. And, I say this, I'm pro-Black, I'm for our people, but in teaching students, I have white students, y'all, that are in the movement too. I have students that are biracial. And like a lot of times when we are Black and we're disenfranchised, we also forget that there are other people. And so the educator in me, I'm very mindful of making sure that I never overlook, because these are the same students that are in the Black community with me. That are like, hey, we need this change because my mama and them, they work together. My cousins are Black, even though I'm from the Latinx community. So we have to also acknowledge that we need Black liberation. We need liberation of all those who are, overlooked, disenfranchised, mislabeled, labeled. We know what's happening, y'all. We know people that are not being treated like human beings. They need support too. And that's what, but that's my philosophy. And that doesn't make me any better or different than anyone else. That's just my perspective. And so we want to close on that. Queen Sheba, Anna Shay, these are queens in the movement, in their own lanes, doing the work. We thank you guys for being with us. Tanisha will be back. We got an amazing lineup for the rest of this year, y'all. We are out here doing the work. Don't forget Julius Jones. We're going to be watching that. Subscribe to the Black Wall Street Times right now. Take out your phones. Listen, let me do like I do my students. Take out your phones. Go ahead and unlock them. Go in the Black Wall Street Times. I need you to subscribe to them right now. Stay connected to their information. But I need you to go and subscribe to atlanta.org if you live in the metro Atlanta area or in the city of Atlanta, because the students are getting ready to take over, y'all. We're about to Stacey Abrams them. Because, again, we're not going to continue to ask, can you let us in? Oh, can you move this chair over? Right. No, baby. When I show up, Jason Allen is showing up with his students. And, oh, you don't have a chair for us? Don't worry. Bring them folding chairs.
We bringing the table.
If you don't have chairs, don't worry. We'll stand up. We go. And if you don't have room, don't worry.
We built our own chairs.
We might give y'all an invitation. We might give y'all an invitation. And follow us at Disruptive Partners. We are launching our leadership collaborative, our leadership hub this January. So we will have a space. The curriculum is about ready. We about to shut this thing down and bust it wide open. All right.
Yeah, I saw
definitely, and definitely join College of Dope Ass Writers on Instagram and live in person. We will be in District 2 at the Tech Center with the Tech Twins, Troy and Travis. And I'm very excited to relaunch this January.
Positive. Yeah, listen, last comment from Michelle Johnson. She's on it. She reminded us that Dr. King was murdered, like Malcolm X was murdered, like Medgar Evers was murdered. Again, knowing their stories and the history, when they started talking not just about Black issues, but those that are also disenfranchised, they were killed for that, because there is power in that. And my daddy will always remind me in studying, which is why you see so many greats behind me. It was my daddy that instilled that in me as a young child. And he always said to me, if it's not worth dying for, then it's not worth doing it. And baby, if we gonna get our people free, if we gonna make sure that my nieces and my nephews are able to do the things that they want to do, baby, if I got to die and bleed for it, then trust me, I am no different than my ancestors. I certainly will do it. And I speak that with all the conviction in my heart. Listen, y'all, we gonna go, but I hope that power leads with you, that we can do this, but we have to be willing to stand and do it together. My sweatshirt says it best, that I'm in the business of not creating shitty people. And we have enough of that in this country. We have enough people who are not being real and doing the right thing. And we need more people to do it. Thank y'all. Peace and love. Check out Talk That Real Shit. Tanisha is not here, so I'm going to say it, baby, loud and proud, because if we're not willing to stand up for what's right, then it don't matter how pretty you dress yourself up to be. You're not making real change. Peace and love,
y'all. My sweatshirt says so never sold pussy. Peace. Woo.